Okay, everybody, let's take it from the top.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Hi ho and happy Pride, folks. Welcome back to D Plus Us, the show about all things Disney. I'm one of your hosts, Griffin Tadell. Griffy D padding with me as always is the wonderful, the amazing Mr. Mitch George. How's it going?
Not liking these election results, Griffin.
Yeah, that's right. Folks, the Toronto mayoral election is happening while we're recording, so Mitch might be a little distracted in this episode. But hey, here's a good reminder. We have lives outside of talking about Disney. Speaking of
Go
said
vote.
lives-
Exercise your right to vote if you're entitled to do so in the place where you live, and if you're not, fight for that right because everyone deserves it.
Everyone truly does. But yeah, we are here to talk about Elemental for the most part. We'll obviously get sidetracked. It's us. We are terrible at sticking onto a plot. I finally got back to editing some TikToks, Mitch. And I think one of my favorite moments of all time of any episode happened during our Across the Spider-Verse episode, where I got entirely derailed by Ruben drinking a Capri Sun. So
It happens.
expect that on the TikTok soon. But yeah, plenty of stuff happening, so let me hit y'all with the rigmarole. Of course, this is D Plus Us. We talk about any and all things Disney, Marvel, Star Wars here on the show. If you like that, head over to youtube.com/@D+Us to catch all of our video content. If you're there right now, you rock. If you're on the podcast, there is a link in the description.
If you are not there, you need to be there as of Friday, June 30th,
Nailed it.
right?
Nailed it.
30th is Friday, right?
Yes, it's Friday.
There is a very important video going live on that channel on Friday. And if you don't hear about it here, where I'm saying go like, subscribe, and be ready for that video, I'm going to be throwing it into every corner of the internet because everyone needs to see this thing. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what you put together, Griffin.
Yeah, 9 a.m. Pacific time. Our video about Disney's lawsuit with Ron DeSantis will finally be going live. It is done, barring any shit that happens in the next few days. Please, for the love of God, please let nothing happen over the next few days. Please let nothing happen over the next few days. I'm knocking on all the wood. Yeah, this video's been a long time coming. I know we've talked about it a lot on the show, and it's finally here. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears have gone into this, and I do mean all of that entirely literally. I have accidentally cut myself on my keyboard while working on.
How do you cut yourself on a keyboard?
I don't know. I don't know how I did it. I still don't, to this day, don't know. My keyboard is mostly smooth, but no, seriously, it is a big project.
Wait, your keyboard is mostly smooth?
There's a couple sharp edges. Look, you can't question it. We just got to keep rolling with it.
The iced coffee is flowing. We're going with it.
Here's the thing: I have managed this one hand. I have managed to cut in like 6 or 7 different ways in the last 2 weeks.
I can one up you there. Somehow at the cottage this weekend, I cut the heel of my foot.
Ooh, that hurts.
Yeah, it was not pleasant. It was one of those things of like the callus had built up to such a point that it just cracked under pressure, which is never a good feeling. But we're not here to talk
All right, so for the
about
folks of you
calluses.
that were able to make it through that, yeah,
We're here to talk about Elemental.
Go check out all of our other stuff. New TikToks will be coming soon now that I'm done with our big video editing project. Until I inevitably start working on our second big video editing project, which I have decided what it's going to be. I'm not going to unveil it yet.
Let me know how I can help because I do want to get more involved with these.
Fantastic. I'm going to send you a list of comic books to read.
I can do it. Got a long weekend coming up.
I think they're mostly on Marvel Unlimited. But yeah, plenty of stuff happening there. We have our weekly episodes are starting up again as well for Secret Invasion. Fair warning for y'all, they are going to be coming out a little bit later than normal just because life is happening. But we are on those, recording episode by episode, week by week, breaking them down and having a good time. I love the tagline I'm using for them as well right now, just as a brief aside, because I have the whole, who can you trust? Maybe not even us. Huh? Maybe we're Skrulls. We're not. But you don't know that for sure.
Find out on Wednesday.
So, all that rigmarole out of the way, we are talking about Pixar's newest movie. We are talking about Elemental, directed by Peter Sohn, screenplay by John Hopeberg, Kat Lukell, Brenda. So, hope I'm saying that right.
You're close.
Starring Leah Lewis, Mamudu. This is my first time reading his name, so I'm sorry.
Mamudu, yeah.
Mamudu
Athi.
Rani Del Carmen, Shiomi, Wendy McLendon-Covey, and Catherine O'Hara. Runtime of 109 minutes, budget of $200 million, and currently, as we record, a box office of $121.1 million. This was released on June 16th, 2023. You've obviously heard about this movie. It's been a box office flop so far. It is making a comeback, which is really great to see.
It's a weird couple of weekends at the box office. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, this movie did not come out at a great time, both with Pixar being in a very weird spot theatrically these days, and then also coming out with right behind the biggest animated movie on one of the biggest movies of the year, Across the Spider-Verse. So, Mitch, I'm curious, when you got to the theater to go see Elemental, what did you think?
So first of all, I saw it last night. So I saw it on weekend 2 in the box office, and I saw it at about 8:00, and there were probably about 8 people in the theater, and 4 of those were, or I think 6 of them were like a young family, like a family with some young kids. So I didn't expect to enjoy this as much as I did, just seeing some of the initial hubbub over the first weekend. But for me, this is the best Disney Plus film I've seen in theaters, if that makes sense.
I see where you're going with that. I like this movie. I had a better audience. I had a much bigger audience than you, it seems.
Yeah, you saw it opening weekend, right?
No, I saw it the night before you. I saw it on Saturday.
God.
Yeah, I saw it on Saturday night, 7 p.m. showing, a pretty standard showing, and my theater was pretty full. To the point of we had people sitting in each other's seats, like kind of full.
Oh.
So even then, it was actually a fairly quiet crowd. I thought the movie was fun. I thought it was actually a really well done Pixar movie. I think the marketing for this movie has pitched an entirely different movie than what this movie is.
I wouldn't say so. I think it really did have the rom-com elements that I expected based on the marketing, with, a bit of, family drama, discussions of xenophobia and some other things kind of sprinkled in there.
See, for me, when I watched these trailers, I was expecting like a Romeo and Juliet style story, and that's just not what this is.
It is much
about interracial couples and the family dynamics that come from that, and I think it's really, really cool to see them taking that. And I highly recommend going and reading some of the interviews with Peter Sohn, which, for what it's worth, the last thing he directed was The Good Dinosaur, which is infamously Pixar's biggest flop.
We'll see for how long people talk about it as the biggest flop, unfortunately.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing about The Good Dinosaur. The Good Dinosaur is just not good all the way around.
I've never finished that movie. I will fully admit to that here on this podcast. I've tried more than once. I started another podcast. It was going to be all about talking about every Pixar movie, specifically because I'd never seen The Good Dinosaur. 1, the podcast didn't last long enough to get there, RIP. And 2, even when I tried to watch it for or outside of that, it puts me to sleep every damn time. It's like melatonin if melatonin were a film.
It is very much like that, right? Like it's like, aside from it being frankly kind of boring, it's like weirdly relaxing because like half of the movie is them walking through nature scenes. There's more walking in that movie than Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. But no, I think this movie was a really interesting, like, it was safe in a lot of ways. Like, it told stories we had seen before. I think it's one of the most beautifully animated films I've seen all year, and I've seen Across the Spider-Verse. I think it did a lot of really interesting things with, flame animation, fluid dynamics in here. It was really, really interesting. The way they used the elements was really fun.
I think
not quite as fun as the trailer, but
I feel like every Pixar movie has that one step, right, that they do so well that elevates the rest of the stuff they do afterwards, right? Like, Lightyears was very clearly how they did space. And these environmental dynamics, which was beautiful. This movie, for me, it's lighting. The lighting, especially with fire, with the natural light that comes off of them versus the lighting of everything else, versus how light filters through the water people, was really beautiful. There's a one point in particular I'm thinking of, which is a spoilery moment that I'm trying to avoid before we really get into spoilers. That was just stunning from light and light alone. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't Coco with 3,000 individual light sources in a single scene and this mind-blowing shot of the afterlife. But I do think this was really cool. This really cool use of lighting in this film, done in some really emotional moments. To use it both in terms of, hey, this is still the world we're in, as well as, hey, we're still going to use this to the benefit, tell the story, make you feel the emotions, yada, yada, yada. But the other thing I want to talk about here is the actual city itself. Before we jump into things, because, hey, guess what? This movie was destined to be compared to Zootopia for all eternity.
I wonder why.
And hear me out. Hear me out. Elemental City is more interesting to me than Zootopia.
I'm with you there.
I think Zootopia was more varied and more interesting in that way. But Elemental City has a story to tell right from the beginning. I loved that right off the bat we got the different elements coming here in waves to really establish the history of the city, to establish...
It was immigrants coming to New
the-
York in the middle of the 19th or of the 20th century, right? Like it was New York City for all intents and purposes.
It was seeing Ember's parents come in and see those murals, right, of water, of earth, and of air, and then no fire. They were something first. They built up Firetown. But then
I think too, just the idea of like the language barrier that they have there, them getting new names because the person can't understand them. It's just like,
I was like, that happened to my grandparents.
It happened to a lot of people's grandparents.
I know, folks. I am not the person you think of when you think of a grandchild of immigrants. Hey, guess what? The other half of my family's German.
I turned to Carmen watching this movie. I'm like, these are your grandparents who came to Canada from Italy in the middle of, like, in the mid 50s. I want to say her grandmother, who has lived here since then, speaks very little English, and it's very much that, you know. It is that community aspect of it as well, right? You find the people that you can relate to the most, and maybe you do, maybe you don't have to assimilate to the culture in a number of different ways. And it's a very interesting case study of, you know, the American dream and immigrating to that country. Although that's largely, you know, it's different these days for sure.
Different now for sure.
It is a very positive look into, you know, what is not a very sensitive subject for a lot of people these days, and I think it's still worth exploring in film.
The best word.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that. But even like in terms of just the city being the city, having all of these narratives around it, the sports teams just being fart jokes, like having this whole sports element within it, having the actual like travel between the different areas being a system of it. It was all great. It was all really, really well done in that regard. Mitch, do you have anything you want to talk about here before we go full spoilers for this movie?
I just want to maybe we can talk about the Pete Docter quote a little bit.
Yeah, let's talk.
Just because I think it lends itself to the.
We also got to talk about Lake. I want
to get
that out before spoilers.
Yeah, so before Pete Docter did an interview, basically the extent of which, and I'm sure you have quotes, is that Pixar has kind of conditioned folks to wait for streaming for their films. And while I don't believe that's the case for all of their movies, I think a lot of their movies deserve to be seen in theaters. The short film that preceded this one is definitely one I'm glad I saw in theaters, because I audibly laughed out loud and I had 8 people look at me funny, which was great. But this movie did feel like it was maybe conceptualized and originally planned to not be in theaters, and then was moved to theaters when they realized the scope or the amount of investment being done into new animation techniques and what it was going to cost them to try to recoup some of those costs. So ultimately, though, I think this is a movie that will succeed once it hits streaming.
I very much agree. I think we are conditioned to that streaming, right? Like we had that they had that conversation like when they showed this movie at Cannes, there was a 7-minute standing ovation, and like standing ovations are like the thing at Cannes. Everyone gets at least 5 minutes for some reason. Like
Yeah,
seriously,
that's a whole other thing we got to talk about at some point, because like Indiana Jones got that, and the initial reviews of Dial of Destiny have me thinking, why did this movie get a 14-minute standing ovation? And I know the answer is Harrison Ford, but still, like, come on.
yeah, it was. But with this one in particular, it's like, yeah, we're people are reluctant to go back to theaters still. It is freaking expensive. Like the only reason I'm able to do it is because I have one of those Regal Movie Pass things, and I still pick and choose my movies because you go, you get popcorn. You go, your ticket's like $15-20. You go and get popcorn. There's another $20 for per
Yeah.
person. It feels like it's just
Yep.
ridiculous, and I can see why people want to wait. I think
Yeah,
more
and
people are going back. We're
Yeah.
definitely seeing more at the theaters now than there were a year ago, but it's not coming back quickly.
I think people are more selective in what they see, honestly, in theaters. And I think we saw, and we'll probably talk about this a bit with Indiana Jones, because like for looking at our schedule, it's like we had Little Mermaid, we had a week, or we didn't have a week. It was like Little Mermaid, Spider-Man, this,
Little Mermaid,
Indiana
which
Jones.
we still haven't recorded.
No, and we'll probably wait for it to come to Disney Plus at this point, because we missed the boat, because there's just so much coming out that I'm sorry. I'm going to make that joke for the end of time. I'm sorry. Blockbuster fatigue is a real thing at this point. I think that there's just too much coming out, too close to one another. Like a summer blockbuster season used to be, okay, you've got something to kick off the summer, something in the middle that makes everyone excited to get back to the theaters, and something just before, just after kids go back to school to get people together and go to the theaters. Like you got one Transformers movie, one Marvel movie, and one, I don't know, movie. And now it feels like we've got a blockbuster movie every other week, if not every week. If not two in a week, because I know you and I are both doing the Barbie Oppenheimer double feature.
I mean,
and that's in like 3 weeks.
I'm not even sure if I'm doing it anymore. I'm so tired. Like,
and to your point, it's expensive. Like we don't have Regal here. Our equivalent to that is one free movie a month, and then you get $9.99 movies, up to 2 tickets per showing for the month, and then snack deals and stuff on top of that.
What it's worth, where it's like we're typically paying for 1, maybe 2 people. We're not paying for a family to go.
Mm-hmm.
Having that extra cost of having, parents, kids, single kid. The more people, the more money this thing is going to cost, and it's not.
Especially if you're going to a 3D showing or an AVX showing or a Dolby showing or whatever it is. Exactly.
Like $30.
Whereas I'm of the mind where I'm making plans to go to a theater that is going to have the 70mm film IMAX cut of Oppenheimer, because I want to see that 13 miles of movie on the screen, and it's just like, not everyone has that luxury, especially parents. And I do think that family films in particular are going to be most hit by the post-streaming world that we live in. So it will be interesting to see how Disney approaches this with future films.
I will say amongst that, I do think Pixar is in a particularly rough situation with their 3 movies on direct to Disney Plus with Soul, Luca, and Turning Red. Which, frankly, are all 3 movies that I would have wanted to see in theaters.
All movies I would have gladly paid to have seen in theaters.
Selfishly, especially Soul with the music in Soul. I would have loved to hear that through theater speakers.
Yeah.
Along the lines of music, also Turning Red, just because boy bands.
Dude, that's like it's interesting looking at the story of this film with the director having based it on his family, his parents immigrating from Korea to New York City, and the story of assimilation and xenophobia and everything that you're confronted with at that point. Turning Red was that for me, just as a Canadian. It was just really nice to see what I recognized represented in film in a way that I don't think ever has before, because Toronto usually stands in for New York and Chicago and stuff, but it's never actually Toronto. So I do like, that's one I like. If they ever do like a family day, like they do that occasionally, right? Where they do like the stars and strollers showings where it's like, yeah, take your kids, we'll turn the lights up a bit, we'll turn the sound down so it's less distracting for, toddlers and strollers, as well as those who may be on the spectrum. It might be a better viewing experience for them. If they ever do that with Turning Red, if I ever have the opportunity to see that in theaters, I'm going to take it.
Especially
especially in Toronto. Exactly.
There's one more thing I want to hit before we jump into that, and that is representation within this movie. Also, just like I said, quickly shout out that the box office is turning around. Great to see. But no, let's talk about Lake. Pixar did introduce their first non-binary character in this movie with one of Wade's siblings named Lake. They're great. They're in this movie for very little of the time. It is another, blink and you miss it moment. But I do want to call this one out because these are baby steps, right? They did it a little bit with Lightyear, but they actually called out Kai by name and by saying sibling instead of sister or brother in this movie. So I do want to shout that out as being like, hey, very good step. Very, very good step. Forward.
More, please.
Also, being voiced by Kai Ava Hauser, who is non-binary, is a non-binary actor, which is additional shout out to Ava for most of their acting is in video games at the moment, which is just always love to see. The last thing they were in was Return to Monkey Island, so
Of course it was.
Which I still need to play that. I still need to sit down and actually play that game.
Did you see they announced that Monkey Island DLC for Sea of Thieves?
Yeah, which is funny because now Sea of Thieves is in the same universe as Pirates of the Caribbean, or Sea of Thieves, Pirates of the Caribbean, and Monkey Island are now all in the same universe.
I just like to. I just look at that game as like the multiverse of pirates. So I don't really think about it in. It's funny. I feel like everything these days is multiverse. Like Pixar is eventually going to do a multiverse film, and it's going to be really weird, or they're going to reveal that it always has been, because it just feels like everyone's going multiverse with everything.
You see
these
that everyone's
days.
freaking out that the next season of Invincible is going to be a multiverse story.
That's kind of what triggered me bringing it up.
Even though it's like
I saw that
like
on Twitter today.
Largely established story that's been around for years. If you just looked at the comics, you knew that was the next story they were telling. But alas. No, super shout out though to Pixar for rolling with this one on this time. Obviously, I would love to see more from them in that regard. And I think we are still starting to slowly see more and more. Eventually, we can get more queer main characters like we got to see in Strange World.
Yep.
But baby steps. I will accept the baby steps because I'll take whatever we can get right now.
Accept it for now. Push for more. There needs to be better representation in all film, not just animation, where it's a blink and you miss it moment. Not Across the Spider-Verse getting banned in Saudi Arabia because there's a trans flag on the film. Like, these things matter to a lot of people, and those people, especially with it being June. Happy Pride. I think we missed that off the top.
All movies that come out in June must feature queer characters.
And there's no reason not to. Like, Toronto just had their Pride Parade this weekend, which historically is one of the largest in the world. Yeah, well, and it's a multi-million person affair when it happens in Toronto, and I just love to see. Like, I got to get out to it one of these years because it's just, you love to see that outpouring of support and love for these communities.
Portland's Pride Parade getting rescheduled to mid-July really has you feeling left out on this weekend. Let me tell you what.
Oh, also, mid-July just sounds hot and sticky.
I mean, it's already hot and sticky here.
Yeah, I think something came out today. I think I probably saw it on Twitter of just
saying that
Canada
making a very bad joke.
No, I think Canada this month had one of its hottest Junes on record and was one of the hottest spots in the world this month. We had days in like the mid 30s, which doing the conversion probably like the mid 90s, no 80s. Hold on, 35 Celsius to Fahrenheit, mid 90s. So like for Canada to be doing that in June is not normal. So it's just like this month has been historically sticky.
I'll say, folks, you would think by now that we would like the amount we hang out. You think we would keep like Fahrenheit to Celsius converters at the ready, but nope, never.
We just gotta stop talking about the weather. We're not, casual acquaintances that just hang out once in a while.
Well, we're making points here. We're making points. No, bring it back.
But that's not about the movie. Let's talk about the movie.
We're gonna go full spoilers now. Hey, it's hot. Fire. There we go. No, full spoilers from here on out for Elemental. So thank you for sticking around with us for the last 25 minutes. If you have not seen the movie and do not want to be spoiled.
We talked about this for 25 minutes already. What the fuck?
Yeah, it's a new movie. Also, we kind of hit the major news items with it. So
true.
Now, if you haven't seen the movie and do not want to be spoiled, go watch the movie and come right on back to hear our discussion. Right off the bat, it's just such a fun movie, especially the stuff with the sign, the blue flame. the
Yeah,
way they
there's a
introduced
lot.
Wade.
Like I said, there's a lot of really interesting plots here. I love the exploration of interracial relationships and xenophobia from, Ember's dad, from the communities at large. The whole idea of the not being able to see the flower because she's a fire. Like, yeah, like the themes explored around segregation and stuff like that. Really interesting to see. I don't think they went far. I don't think they went far enough with a few of these things. And I understand, like, it's a kids movie at the end of the day. It's a Pixar film. But there was room here for them to just go that extra mile to make that push into territories that are make people a little more uncomfortable in their chairs, which I think this movie had a really great opportunity to do, and it kind of dropped the ball there, at least for me. Although there are fun, cute moments, like the rainbow is really fun, and like the glass and exploring Ember's true calling, like that's all great. Discovering yourself.
For me, the moment where they go see the Lumisteria tree. That's the moment I was talking about with lighting. This is one of the most beautiful moments in this entire movie to me, of seeing the light go through this water, reflecting off the tree, watching the tree light up from Ember's flame. It's just so cool, and they are able to nail moments like that, and at the same time nail that moment of Ember telling Wade about how they tried to go see it the first time. I think that really shows like the range this movie has and the way it will make you feel. And then at the same time, they'll have scenes like the crying game at Wade's apartment, which is funny for a little bit, pays off in a fairly good way, but not a great scene. Like they have their moments, but
Sorry, they're also getting close to calling the election. I'm just waiting for the call because right now the candidate I like is in the lead.
Ooh,
really hoping it. We'll see.
I mean, I'll keep going. It feels like a comedy, right? It feels like when we were talking back about Thor: Love and Thunder, where it's like, hey, some of it hits, some of it doesn't, and I think that's very much this movie, where some of it's great. Everything with Gale, fantastic.
Gale is just
knocks
awesome. Great character. And that I didn't realize when I saw that Gale was voiced by Wendy McLennan-Covey, and she's just hilarious. You know her, like she was in Bridesmaids. She's really funny there. She played the mom in the Goldbergs. Like she's a really, really funny actress, and it definitely lends itself well to this role here.
Or I mean, hey, I gotta shout out Catherine O'Hara,
who I also didn't recognize as the mom, and I should have, because that's Canadian royalty right there.
Mitch, that everything comes back to Beetlejuice.
Oh, I was going to say Schitt's Creek or Home Alone.
I mean, yes. Let's go with the significantly more popular decisions. I'm going to bring it back to Beetlejuice.
Yeah, I know you are.
No, seriously, everyone is moving now out of the park. But seeing all of those relationships, right? Seeing this also this extremely creative family that Wade has, right? Of them all being like painters, art curators, in school for art, yada yada yada. Like, I really do think this does a good job with that stuff, especially like really hammering home the difference between Wade and Ember's families.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
well, it's two different. Like it is very much the West Side Story of like one comes from money, one comes from an immigrant home. Like it is that anyone can be anything. Again, we're going back to Zootopia, the theme there that anyone can be anything they want to be. Whereas Ember felt very stuck in her ways, and you look at Zootopia with Ruby Hops. Judy. Damn it, I was close. Judy Hopps of, she knows what she wants to be, and society is telling her she can't do what she wants to do. Whereas here, it's very much, the familial pressure being put on the first and only child of an immigrant family to run their business, when she doesn't actually realize that, like, they have that whole moment of the end of, the dream wasn't the shop, the dream was you, and you're amazing, and be whoever or whatever you want to be. And like, that is the rah moment of the film. And it was very, like, it was a very predictable way for that whole thing to come about. That's presented in a really novel, fun way. And there were tears shed when we all thought Wade was dust or
vapor.
But at the end of the day, I think it's just, it was a really safe movie, and I think
Yeah,
that's fine when it comes to a movie like this. Like, it's a rom-com at the end of the day.
Yeah, I feel like safe is the good word for it. It does still do that stuff very well, though. I love that they didn't just leave the mom off to the side. Like, that she does actually have a role to play, I feel like, in, like, a lot of rom-coms like this, right? Like, oh, we're going to focus on this relationship between them and their mother, them and their father. We're just going to pretend that the other person is either the other parent is either inept or just doesn't matter. And they didn't do that here. They actually did give her a role in all of this. And even though it is still like extremely predictable, right? The ending had me bawling.
Oh, I was
Back,
in tears.
like that.
Taking it back to like, yeah, like his
him,
moment he had with his dad, and then her.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And like that moment, first off, him telling her about that moment and explaining like, hey, this is why I'm so closed off. I'm sorry. Like he couldn't give me this. I had to give this all to you. For sure, that moment was devastating. But then to bring it back around and give her having that moment where she like stops is like, yeah, I need to do this, and then does it. Fantastic. And I love that that is where the credits ended, or credits began as well.
It was the right moment because it was the start of her journey and the culmination of the story being told here.
Because yeah, I feel like you do anything else there, and it kind of overrides
Lessens the moment.
Purpose, yeah.
Yeah.
This is something I do hope we actually legitimately do see more of. The thing that Pixar really does that no one else does as much is they're giving us original stories. This is a unique original story, which it may be unique is a rough term.
It's a typical rom-com story with the Pixar polish, like with that Pixar frame of mind, that Pixar presentation, that the spirit of Pixar, but with a story that is very much one that we're familiar with.
Yeah, like they're still giving us original content, which I think is very rare. When you don't look at like the other movies we've talked about in this episode alone, it's all been major IP or Barbie and Oppenheimer, which Barbie is frickin' Barbie, and Oppenheimer is a history story.
Let's just do this. Let's go to the highest grossing film list of 2023 thus far. Want to know how many of these films are not? You want to know how many of these are not sequels?
Probably one or two.
One. Well,
Mario.
It's Mario. The Little Mermaid is there too, but that's a remake, so I don't really know where we want to. Like, it's not an original story.
Yeah.
Mario is an original story. It's the only one on here that isn't from an. I mean, well, that being said, it's on here. It's not a sequel, but it's also based on an established IP. There is nothing in the top 10 that is not based on an established IP. You have from 10, Scream 6, Transformers Rise of the Beast, Fast 10, Creed 3, John Wick Chapter 4, Ant-Man, Little Mermaid, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Guardians 3, and Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
So I do worry that that's going to lead and has already led to studios making decisions where the films they're putting out are only based on established IP, which is how you get things like Morbius and Craven and less things like Elemental.
I mean, it's why we're getting that one. What was that one toy that we're getting a movie off of that you were telling me about?
G.I. Joe?
No, well, we are getting that, and it's going to be crossover with the G.I. Joe is apparently also now in the Transformers universe. Comics.
Yeah, I saw that spoiler. I haven't seen the movie yet.
They're doing
I gotta see it at some point.
Everywhere. It was like across all canon for Transformers and G.I. Joe. They are now the same universe.
Interesting. Barbie?
No, it was it was a weird one.
Saint Seiya?
That might be it.
It wasn't necessarily. It was based on an old anime. It wasn't based on a toy specifically, but.
Yeah, but like, my point is, everything is based off of something now. Nothing is original, and I feel like Pixar is very good about giving us both original and sequels. Right? Like, if we look at Pixar's next 3 projects, Inside Out 2 is one of them, which is sequel to a fantastic.
Which is someone coming in saying, "Hey, we need money, and this is an established IP."
Because we know we're getting sequels to that, Toy Story, and Zootopia. Yes, we're getting a Toy Story 5 that's going to have Buzz and Woody, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. But then we're also getting Win or Lose, which is their first full-length series. We're also getting Elio, which is a totally original. idea. We're still getting both of those from them, and I feel like Pixar is really good at giving us both.
I agree. I do worry that we're going to see less of it over time, and it is going to be more like even looking at the theme parks, right? The new lands or the new experiences that they're putting in parks are all based on IP. When's the last time Disney did something original in the parks? Mickey and Minnie's, even though that's still based on an established IP.
I would tell
it's still a
no, I think
Disney
it's
IP.
Star Wars.
You say Star Wars?
Yeah.
But like that's
Didn't
still
Mickey
based
and
on an
Minnie come
IP.
before Star Wars?
Cars?
IP.
Exactly.
Everything is IP because that's what sells.
Exactly.
And
so
the parks is a little bit different, where it's if you've never used an IP before in the parks, you kind of get a free pass. That's why I say Star Wars, because they have Star Tours, but this is different.
I would say Star Tours would probably have been but like when's the last time they did an original land that wasn't based on like all of the lands they've introduced across time. I was going to say, like, since the park's opened, everything they've introduced has been based on IP.
And this isn't unique to them. Universal does the same thing. Universal's major lands are Jurassic Park, Harry Potter, gross, Marvel.
Epic Universe is looking to be that same thing in Orlando with, you know, them having their Nintendo World and a Fantastic Beasts World, gross.
Even in Universal Studios Orlando, because yes, there's Universal Studios Orlando, there's Islands of Adventure now, there's Epic Universe. But they just redid a bunch of a small area to be Minions specific.
Yeah.
Like everything is IP. So to get these moments with stuff like Elemental, to get stuff like Asteroid City, which came out this week. It's not Disney.
Oh yeah, I still got to see that.
Fantastic. That's why I didn't.
Too many movies, Griffin. There's too many movies.
Guess how often I'm at the movie theater every week, man.
I still gotta watch Flamin' Hot.
Yeah, Flamin' Hot's just on the backlog forever, alongside Muppets Mayhem for me.
Oh, Muppets Mayhem's so good though.
It was. That really tells you all you need to know, right, about this blockbuster season. That I still haven't sat down to watch that because I'm trying to make my way right now through Rise of the Pink Ladies before it gets taken off Paramount. Which is another thing
we should probably do. We should probably do an episode on all the stuff coming off Disney Plus.
I mean, it's already off, which is disappointing because there was one show on there a couple shows on there that I loved.
I never got around to Big Shot. I never got around to Big Shot, Griffin.
Or we never did my Mysterious Benedict Society episode, which is really disappointing because that book was so good. Anyways, bringing it back. I try to take these moments with stuff like Elemental in stride of, hey, this movie isn't doing well. It's still a good movie. It is a solid 7-8 out of 10. I'm not going to tell you that this is this mind-blowing, epic Pixar you have to go see it. This is not the next Coco. This is not the next Soul. But it is still very much worth seeing. And it's original. And we need to give credit where credit is due to original IP. Now more than ever.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'll even take IP that is based off of stuff like... I'll even take, like, the Dungeons & Dragons movie, which is based off D&D, but is a totally original new story.
That was a ton of fun. Like, I loved that movie.
Sitting at my desk.
Oh, man. Druid in that movie is the MVP. Also, just Druids and D&D in general are the MVPs. I can't wait for Baldur's Gate 3 to drop. I'm just going to play Druid the whole way through and friggin' love it, man. Wild Shape for life. Let's go.
That movie got me to start playing Druids, and then I played a couple Druids, and now I only want to play Druids.
Dude, Druid is so fun. Honestly, like oh man, I miss D&D so much.
Normally I play clerics. Normally I'm a healer, which is not surprising to anybody that knows me that I play support. So getting to play this has been super fun.
But even Druid, you can like mix and match, right? Like you can play support, but like just oh man, I can't remember the subclass, but like I was the subclass that gets like enhanced wild shape. So I was just an animal in every encounter. I was just like throwing people around as a giant scorpion and stuff. Oh, it was great.
See, I made a deal with my DM last time I played where it's like, hey, look, the limitations on wild shape are stupid. Can I just do it whenever? Like, I won't abuse it during combat. He's like, yeah, okay, good.
Like, see, my rule was I wasn't allowed to change into anything I hadn't seen.
Oh yeah.
So I I spent the entire campaign trying to find books about dinosaurs, and it didn't happen until at one point my DM threw for whatever reason, he threw a dinosaur at us. I'm like, this shouldn't be. He's like, I know, you're welcome. And I was so happy because the rest of the campaign I just played the dinosaur. It was so great.
That's great. I love that druids are essentially just Beast Boy.
100%. My druids are just Beast Boy. Yeah.
Anyways, Disney. I wish D&D would. I wish the other Dungeons and Dragons movie was on Disney Plus so we could talk about it on the show because it's such a fun time.
So good.
Anyways, we probably do a plot recap.
Nah, we've already done that basically.
I mean, it's a pretty simple plot. We're gonna do it because there's points we'll hit where we wouldn't otherwise.
Yeah.
So this movie starts off with these two fire elements coming into Element City, seeing this place for the first time, seeing the groups of people who have come here. They are immigrating here from the Fireland. They go to what is essentially custom to talk. They give them their names. It's in this fire language. The dude doesn't understand it, thus giving them the names Bernie and Cinder. Which are just
fantastic.
Thinking about it is kind of horrible when you think too much about that.
Because the names are just based on appearance,
yeah.
And we shouldn't be judging people based on their appearance.
Exactly. But also, I'm giving it a pass in this one because everyone is based off of names are puns based off of their element. So,
but you can also just look at that as a systemic issue where people are judged just based solely on their appearance and not the character of the individual. Yeah, you're right. Let's go on.
They have a daughter, Ember, adorable little fire baby. Every child in this movie is absolutely adorable, and I love that. They find the shop after struggling to find a place. They have Ember, and they create this convenience store called the Fireplace. I love the sign. The sign is great. I also just love the idea of Lava Java.
Just the puns in this movie are out of this world.
They set up a blue flame representing their heritage. This blue flame was back in Lava Land or Fireland. Was set up.
Lava Land is better, honestly, but I get they needed to, hit the themes on the nose.
I think Lava Land is the fire area in Shark Boy and Lava Girl, but don't quote me on that.
Who owns the rights to that? That's
Disney owns it.
Is that Disney?
Yeah, it's Disney.
I'll have to do an episode at some point.
I know that was a Disney Channel movie.
Was it?
Or at least I watched it on Disney Channel.
That doesn't make it a Disney Channel movie.
Well, no, it was one that consistently aired on Disney Channel. So yeah.
Let me just look for Sharks on Disney Plus. That was a mistake because it's When Sharks Attack. Shark Beach with Chris Hemsworth.
Forget that National Geographic exists on Disney
Hey,
Plus?
Finding Nemo's in there, all right?
Anyways.
And Henry Hugglemonster from Disney Junior, whatever that is. No Shark Boy and Lava Girl.
Boo.
At least in Canada.
Okay, I'll check on mine. If it's on mine, it gives us an excuse. Anyways, yeah, we watch them grow up. Eventually, Ember is going to run the shop as Bernie is getting older and older. But Ember has a massive temper, which, frankly, some of the customers she deals with deserve this. But we watch her getting better at it, all preparing for their Red Dot sale, this big blowout event for them. We get this challenge from her that she is going to beat her dad's record. Yeah.
So I have an update. From 1993 to 2010, the Walt Disney Company owned Miramax, which it was the distributor of Shark Boy and Lava Girl, but it is since a jointly owned venture between Bean Media Group and Paramount.
Well, we hate Paramount at the moment. Shit.
We also hate Miramax, and do you know why that is?
I've always hated Miramax, but yeah.
And why is that?
I don't remember.
Founded by Harvey Weinstein.
Oh yeah, that's a great reason for hating Miramax.
Hey.
Look, it's genuinely at a point now where there's so many of these, and I'm like, nope, just hate them. Moving on.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
But yeah, we're getting ready for Red Dot Day. Red Dot Day is beginning. She's on her own after having beaten her dad's best time at deliveries. What a sweet, wonderful moment for what it's worth when she comes back and he's sleeping on the counter, and while they're walking back, the timer goes off. It's just cute. While Red Dot still is happening, she is on her own. Her temper is flaring up and it's about to go crazy. She runs into the back to let it out. Unfortunately,
again, this is another weird thing of like, why does the main character who is based on fire need to have a fiery temper? Like that just again, we're leaning into stereotypes, or we're stereotyping characters in a way that I didn't expect us to in a Pixar film.
I mean, I can get the temper thing with customer service.
Well, that I turned to Carmen. I'm like, "This is you when you worked at the grocery store," and she said, "Yep,
I
100%."
say that
And
was
that's why she has a
absolutely me
temper
when I
to this
worked
day.
at the grocery store and when I worked at coffee shops.
Yeah.
But yeah, she explodes quite literally, causing some pipes to break, causing flooding in the basement. While this flooding happening, Wade Ripple appears, having been summoned through the pipes. He is a city inspector and a water element. He was looking into why the pipes were being weird. And shows up here. The more Ember talks, the more Wade just keeps writing citations. Really just, stuck doing his job. He feels bad about it, but, he's a city inspector. We don't like city inspectors.
I mean, as we sat here and talked for 10 minutes about the Toronto municipal by-election.
He writes like 30 plus citations for them and then takes off to go to City Hall to submit his report to his employer, Gale, who is a wind or air element. They're going to get the fireplace shut down. There's not many citations considering that her father rebuilt the place brick by brick, hand by hand.
Like, I also don't understand that because, like, the assumption being that he did this over years, and we have buildings in place today that have probably been retrofitted in those ways. So, like, I don't know, it feels very reactionary in a way, or very, very targeted, which is unfortunate because, like, you're targeting the area of the city that looks, comparing, Firetown to the rest of Elemental City.
Mitch, have I got news for you about reality?
It is, by all intents and purposes, a slum. Like, it looks like a slum with the way it's being presented in the film. Which, to then go and, it feels like you can't catch a break in this city if you're fire, which isn't fair, and I guess that's kind of the point.
Yep.
That sucks.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, exactly. It sucks. And that is how the real world is, unfortunately. Anyways, we get this great chase scene between Ember and Wade. Ember finally goes into the city for the first time in forever. I love these essentially water subways. We get this fire. We get this wonderful.
But also, again, you have a water subway that will travel through an area of the city where it can kill all of your inhabitants of that area.
Oh, they did not think it through.
No.
We get this great chase scene. One of my favorite moments in this chase scene is at the city hall where she steals a hot dog cart guy's chili oil, sprays it, and turns herself into a wall, and then Wade just goes through a drain. Great bit. Fantastic. He submits his stuff. While he's submitting it, Ember is like pleading her case to him, like, please don't do it. Please don't do it. It's like, well, look, I'm sorry. I already did it, but we can go talk to this guy and we can get it all fixed up. He takes her to go see, oh God, what was the big tree dude's name?
Fern,
yeah. Fern Grouchwood is his full name.
Love it.
Sorry, I'm trying to find all the full names for these characters because all the full names are genuinely hilarious. So they go meet Fern, who's like, yep, I'm taking my day off. I'm taking some time off soon. It's going to be great. She tries to pitch her case. Ember's totally embarrassed, ends up exploding with her temper again, burning the entire place down inside, as well as Gale. So Gale sets it off, is like, fuck you. I'm closing early, get out. She then goes home. Wade makes the case to her, like, look, if you can convince my boss, Gale Cumulus, by the way, another great one, maybe we'll have a shot. Ember then ends up going home, having this conversation. She gets home and she sees her parents cleaning up the pipes. She did not fix the flood. The flood actually got worse. And they're trying to figure out what happened. They think that they saw her chasing after the water guy, assuming that the water guy caused all the damage. He didn't. She did. So the next day, she goes to try to talk to Gail, going outside of their office, waiting, where she runs into Wade, accidentally setting his bag on fire. We get some little bit of flirting here. Not purposeful flirting, but flirting nonetheless.
It was enough.
Wade tells her she's actually not in the office today. Today is the semifinals at Cyclone Stadium for, I believe it was called Windball.
Sounds right. All I know is it was the Windbreakers and the Crop Dusters.
Yep.
Which is just
great fart jokes. Great
movie making magic right there.
Mm-hmm. He was like, look, she's got these seats. I got 2 tickets. They both end up going. Immediately, Gail and Ember are fighting. But in seeing everything, the sports actually bring them together. It's great. It's wonderful. We get some fun moments here with Wade, where Wade manages to connect with the entire team, reach out to one of the players who just lost his mom, starts a literal wave, and they mount apparently the greatest comeback of all time, losing like 130 something points to 4 and somehow coming back and winning is wild for what is essentially wind basketball. Talking with them, Gail's giving them a chance, calling them a cute couple. They have until Friday to find the source of the leak. Oh yeah, also the water should never have been getting to Firetown in the first place. That was supposed to be sealed off. They have until Friday, 4 days, to find the leak and seal the leak. Get a team there to seal it up. So they go searching for it, searching the canals where Wade was initially sucked up. In this, they're kind of having this emotional conversation, getting to know each other, where Wade's like, hey, Ember, maybe your temper is trying to tell you something. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. We'll get back to that later. Eventually, they discover what's the issue is. There is a hole in the dam that is causing wave runoff into the plumbing and thus into Firetown. Even though, like you mentioned, Mitch, there is a massive subway that goes directly over Firetown, spreading water all over it.
Which, to be fair, it does seem pretty well engineered, but one person walks in the wrong area and there's no signage or anything to just, like, you have signage at railroad crossings in the real world to say, don't walk here, a train might murder you. And yet there's nothing here for all of this overflowing water that could potentially kill. Sorry, I'm a little worked up over this. Every citizen of Firetown, when this thing comes through, it's a subway in a major metropolitan every 4 or 5 minutes, I'd say. Like, it's absolutely bonkers. Although it is a suburb, so their service is probably hourly, but still. Wrong.
Remind me later. I have a story to tell you relating to trains.
Okay. I love a good train tale.
And ignoring those warnings. It's not a good tale. Well, I mean, no one was hurt. Close, but no. Anyways, they cover it up with sandbags. And they part ways. Wade does ask her out on a date. I would love to see you again tomorrow, 3:00 at this movie theater that is showing the elemental version of Pride and Prejudice. I forgot the name of it. I really wish I had written it down because it was another great pun.
It was a great pun. Yeah, here, I'll see if I can find it.
Anyways, Ember goes back home and sees that Bernie is still dealing with water leaks all over the fireplace. They fixed everything downstairs, but now it's gotten worse upstairs. Anyways, the next day, Wade and Ember go on their date. They go there. They go all around the city. And we get to see this wonderful moment of like Ember kind of coming into her own in the city. She makes like some cloud steam things for some of the kids. She's having a great, fantastic time with them. And they're really getting to know each other and becoming close. They have a moment where they are dancing in the city with a bunch of things, and everyone starts to slow dance. They go to do it, but they cannot touch because, again, water and fire. Either he'll douse her or she'll evaporate him. What's the pun, Mitch?
Pride and Prejudice.
Yes. I love it too much. That night ends with them on the beach, where Wade is like, "Hey, look, I got some news." So the team that I was supposed to have close up that stuff, yeah, they kind of hate me. They're not going to close it, which is like kind of horrible considering the implications of, hey, we're just not going to help you close off this section that it could literally kill people because we hate you. But not the point of this movie. Anyways, they have that conversation. She gets upset. Her temper flares again, and she flares up, causing some of the sand to turn into glass, which gives Wade and her an idea. They go back, and she manages to superheat the sandbags they used to seal the dam to fully seal it with tempered glass. Let's see. They then have more of a conversation about what they're able to do. Oh, yeah. Meanwhile, at the beach, Ember told Wade the story about the Maria tree and made like a glass version of it. They have this conversation after she seals the gate about, hey, dude, you're really good at this. You should do it. And we kind of had that discussion of, I don't get to just do anything I want to do. I have to run the shop. Oh my God, I don't want to run the shop. Having that conversation. So she goes
Yeah,
home.
the idea of family legacy responsibilities, not wanting to be a disappointment, like these family dynamics exist throughout the history of film, and it's a very tried and true story that's being told here. It's got a nice facade over top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It really is well done in that regard. Meanwhile, back at the fireplace. Oh yeah. Also, at some point in all of this, in this montage, Ember's mom catches on to the fact that she's secretly dating somebody. She doesn't know who it is. Eventually, she figures out it's Wade after following them back to Wade's apartment. Which I think we're at almost. I don't. Yeah, well, let's just say we're there.
Yeah, that's fine. Again, there are moments in this movie that I have totally forgotten, and I saw it yesterday. So.
Yeah. So they go back. Yeah, he takes her back to his apartment. Or, sorry, she walks him back to his apartment. He's like, hey, my entire family is here for dinner already. Why don't you stay the night? Or stay for dinner. Where we meet Wade's entire family. Meet his mom, sibling, uncle. And the rest of a very big extended family. Again, I want to shout out the names. Again, shout out to Lake. Shout out to Eddie Ripple. And then also shout out to Marco and Polo Ripple, who are twins.
I'm so disappointed that was revealed in a trailer, because like that is such a good pun. Like it's such a fun little Easter egg that didn't need to be shown off in a trailer.
Yeah, it was so good. We have this wonderful conversation between them all actually getting to meet the family. Wade's mom is like super supportive, like love her to death. She is fantastic. Top tier character in this movie, honestly.
Oh, for sure.
We have the crying game where he gets Ember to cry for the first time. And that's when she like has her realization. Then they argue. She storms off home, and then that's when her mom discovers that she's dating Water Guy. Obviously, she doesn't know it's Wade. Also, I think somewhere in here was when Wade showed up to the fireplace, had the food inspector joke.
That was fun. That was a fun little exchange.
Which, damn, the moment he waters down the food is the moment where I'm like, dude.
Yeah, you done goofed.
You never, ever try to lessen the spice in food. You just take it, dude.
Yep.
Anyway, she goes home. They have this conversation. While she gets back, her dad comes down to her and her mom talking. It's like, why are you home? They cover for themselves, and he's like, okay, I was going to do this in the morning, but I'll do this now. I'm retiring in 2 days, because that's how this works. And I wanted to give you this. He opens up this box, and it's a big neon sign. Well, not neon. It's a big light sign that says Ember's Fireplace. he's super proud of her, and he tells her the story about when he was leaving and performed the great bow for his father, but his father refused to bow back. It's this very sad moment. The next day, Wade comes back and is like, I need a couple seconds of your time, just trust me. And takes Ember to Garden Central Station to see the Wisteria flowers, using Gale to create a water bubble. They've got about 10 minutes, they say. Not accounting, of course, for the fact that fire burns up oxygen.
As soon as she got in that bubble, I'm like, they got 2 minutes tops.
Mm-hmm. But it's a beautiful scene. It's a beautiful scene.
Yeah.
Actually, I want to go back a second because I just remembered. During the dating montage, we got like the original song that was created for this movie, which is top notch, fantastic. It is on my playlists already because I loved it.
I had this on repeat before even seeing the movie because it's in the Disney curated playlist on Apple Music, and I'm just like, this is a bop.
I'm gonna kind of casually, quickly bring up the name because I don't remember the name off the top of my head. Of course, now is when Spotify wants to be slow, right?
Elemental soundtrack on Wikipedia.
Steal the Show by Love.
That's...
Also, for what it's worth, just you'll appreciate this, Mitch. So much of my Spotify right now is trying to find music from Pokemon.
I appreciate that a lot.
Because I just wrapped the most recent season. So,
I still got to do that because of the emotion.
Dude,
see, for me, all of my Apple Music time at this point is just Disney music, just getting prepped for that trip to the parks, and I cannot wait. We're like a month away. Like a month away.
Anyways, they have this.
Also, music for this film composed by Thomas Newman, cousin of Randy Newman, and it shows.
Yeah, he's damn good.
Yeah, he's done a lot. He's fantastic. He's done a lot of Disney and Pixar too, or a lot of Pixar at least.
Yeah.
Looking at this, but yeah.
That's the thing about this movie and Pixar in general is I love how they let their artists grow.
Yeah.
Like Thomas in this, Peter Sohn in this, like they really do get to grow with the company, which I really appreciate. You don't see that much.
Not in film. Like Pixar definitely feels like more of an institution or a family, which I don't like using that for any corporate environment, but I think that's exactly.
Hey, if a corporation ever tells you that you're like family, run the other direction as fast as you possibly can.
I don't know if I told you this. So I got into work today. My G Suite account had been deactivated. I'm like, oh, so this is how it happens. Thankfully, it was computer error and not the worst, but my brain immediately went to, well, I guess I'm unemployed now.
I have done something similar. The first time, I didn't realize that Slack would log me out after a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Like it's like a month and a half. It's a weird amount of time. So when I couldn't log into Slack, I was like, oh dear God.
See, our Slack is connected to G Suite. So when I got logged out of Slack, I'm like, oh, this isn't normal. And I was on a Teams call with my team when it happened. I'm like, oh, so just an FYI, I don't know what's going on. Please help.
Yeah. Anyways, they rush out of the Garden Central Station. Another fantastic name. They rush out of there, barely making it out. Wade's like super apologetic, but Amber's like, dude, that was awesome. They finally touch, and they begin to dance. It's very cute. But Amber's like, nope, I still can't do this, even though we can touch, even though this is okay. I can't. I have to go back to my family. I have to do this. Wade, obviously super upset at this. Like, the dude's putting himself out there for her. Goes for it. The next day is at the fireplace is her dad's retirement party, where he's making this big. It's a big cultural moment for both him and Ember, but also for the shop, passing and showing off the new sign. A great reveal of that sign. Fantastic. 10 out of 10. We get this.
I mean, it's Firetown. They had to use fireworks at some point,
right? I mean, we had a whole sparkler joke in this, so.
Kind of overplayed, but I did like how they used it to signify more character growth for Ember.
Yes,
like there are little moments in this that are just really, really, really fun moments. I feel like by and large the plot is very safe.
Yeah, it is a Pixar plot.
Yeah,
where it's almost there but not quite. And they sometimes get out of that with stuff like turning red with Soul. But like Luca is another great example where it's so close. I still love Luca, but while they're there, he passes along the blue flame to her. At this point, Wade shows up out of nowhere, confessing his love. Oh, also at some point, Wade and Ember did like the love ceremony, and Wade was able to use light to light the candle or the wood stick thing. It was cute. He goes. Ember's mom was like, "Dude, take it, find love, be happy." But Ember ends up rejecting Wade. Bernie, in all of his anger, because knowing that was the dude that he banned from the shop, that's all he really knows, declares he is no longer retiring, takes down the sign, takes the blue flame, and storms back inside. Then at this point, Wade is now going to leave Element City, and he is super sad. We get another hilarious joke of his watercolor painting uncle. It's like, I painted you a picture of a man in sadness, and it's a
So good.
replica of Wade.
It's so good. And that whole family dynamic is just wonderful. But again, like I like that they played with the idea of a class system in this, but I don't like it. It explored it in the highest of levels and didn't really get into the depths that I've come to expect when it comes to Pixar writing and revealing a lot of these like systemic issues.
I wouldn't even say it was a class system. It was race, and I feel like they should have tripled down on that.
Yeah.
Like they should have accepted, like, hey, we can't be middle of the road here. And part of me wonders, like, this movie has been in development for a really long time now.
I wonder what the edits looked like before it got to this theatrical cut.
This movie went into development as when The Good Dinosaur wrapped up.
Yeah. Which was
15.
15, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which makes you wonder, but like obviously, you know, we can theorize all we want, but we don't know any of the actual facts.
No.
Anyways, he's doing that. Ember is just grief incarnate. She talks with her parents, like obviously her dad's disappointed, trying to understand some stuff. At some point amongst all of this, the seal that she made on the dam breaks, starting to flood the fire district, which you know can massacre an entire people.
Yeah, but let's not take safety precautions to protect these people. Like, why did they think the glass was gonna? Like, I get it, tempered glass, great, but like, why not be like, okay, this is great, and we're gonna order a new gate? Like,
I imagine they thought that because the entirety of Element City was like made out of tempered glass, so they'd be like, yeah, sure, it's fine. It was not fine. Anyways, Ember, realizing this, immediately rushes to save people. Doing a damn good job at it too, by the way.
The hero's journey, it's definitely a thing in this movie.
It's a thing in every Pixar movie. She does so. Her parents get on a thing that looks very reminiscent of. They get on like a platform or whatever it was that's very reminiscent of the ship that they first arrived on. And Ember dives back into the fireplace to save the blue flame. While all of this is happening and whatnot, Wade shows up and helps her to push back some of the water. She builds up a wall around the blue flame, but it isn't enough. The water eventually comes in, crashing Ember and Wade back into like the little love area that her mom had set up, and presumably dousing the blue flame, only for us to learn that Wade actually was able to save it. Because Wade, 10 out of 10, the biggest of the homies in this entire movie. Like he truly does come in clutch in every possible situation. After just to make up for the horrible actions he did at the beginning of this movie.
Yep.
They have this moment in there of like, he's like, it's too hot in here. I'm going to evaporate. They don't want to accept it. they have this sad moment. Cuts to when the flood has receded. And she is in the room alone. They get her out of there. She has the flame, but there is no Wade. She finally breaks down and has a conversation with her dad about how she doesn't want to run the fireplace. She has found a new path for herself. But she doesn't want him to lose his dream. He has his line of, the dream was never the shop, the dream was you. At which point we start to hear Wade crying. Ember then walks back to it, sees that this water also happens to conveniently be falling into a pot. Starts to recite the things that Wade had said during when they played the crying game. And the more she says, the more he cries. The more she's like, "Hey, I want to be with you. I love you." He comes out of the pot, completely naked.
As one does.
They do have a bit about that. They kiss, and it's super cute. Everyone's super happy about it. Even the dad. Actually, the dad has a hilarious moment where he's like trying to look away. It's great.
Why wouldn't you?
Well, I mean, uncomfortable of his father and his daughter's first boyfriend.
So he probably doesn't even know what water looks like. That's just awkward. Like, you don't need to see everything.
Yeah. Especially with him, like, bubbling because it's fire touching water. Anyways, let's cut to, like, 3 months later. Wade and Ember, who are now officially dating, are leaving Ember City so that Ember can go study glassmaking. They never say where it is, just that it's far away.
Would have been so easy to be like, in, I don't know, the equivalent of Milan in this universe.
Mm-hmm. But I kind of love it because it's like, hey, sequel.
Hey, Disney Plus show. Series of shorts, like every other Pixar film gets.
Yeah, it is genuinely funny to me. So they're about to board the ship. Wade says goodbye to his mom. They both start bawling. We get a funny line from Bernie here of like, "You sure about this? You sure he's the one?" She's like, "I'm sure."
I mean, that's every parent ever.
Mm-hmm. But it's just so perfectly combined with the crying. They're about to board the ship when Ember stops, performs the great bow to her father, who returns it in kind, and thus the credits begin. A fantastic credit scroll.
I sat through the whole thing.
Marvel: A Secret Invasion, take note.
Yeah, right.
Fantastic, and thus is the end of the movie. I really do think this is a movie worth watching. Like, we talked about it here, and like, obviously, very safe movie, but even going through the plot bit by bit, like, oh, we love that part. Oh, we love that part. Oh, we love that part. Like, it really is a fun movie. Now, Mitch, we've reached the end of the show. We've gotten through the plot. You think we would be better about doing this at the beginning?
Nah.
Is this movie worth seeing in theaters?
Nah. No, I think it is for the visuals. I do feel like the advances in animation seen here, especially with flame and fluid dynamics, I think are really fun, and they play a lot with it on the big screen. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just getting old, but I like to buy tickets near the front of the theater these days. And just getting that huge screen with all of the visuals and the color and the pop in the theater was a lot of fun. That being said, this is a Disney Plus movie. Like, this should have probably been something that went direct to Disney Plus. I think it would have gotten a lot of buzz had it done that. Maybe not coming out at the same time as Secret Invasion, but again, I also I don't know what it is. I think people might just be fatigued with media right now. Like, it just seems like film, television, doesn't matter. People are just like, I'm taking the summer off. Like, it's very odd. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, it just seems like people don't want stuff. But maybe that's just me being really cynical. And
I think this movie's worth seeing in theaters. I really do. I think the audio and the visuals alone make it worth seeing in theaters. And I do think it is a very solid story, even if it is safe. For me, I think I've talked all this talk, right, about how this is a great original story and we really need to support those, to not say, I've talked way too much talk about it, to not say, don't go see it in theater. or to go. You know what I'm trying to say. You
Yeah.
gotta go see this in theaters. It is worth going and seeing it. And I really, that's where I struggle on this. It's like, yes, folks, it is expensive, and I'm sorry, but it is expensive.
Find what works for you. If that is sneaking in dollar store snacks, then do it. If that is waiting for it to drop on Disney Plus, do it. If that is using less than illicit means to see it, do it.
I can't wait for.
I'm not advocating it, but at the same time, like I understand people's budgetary restraints and things are one way or another. I think this is definitely worth watching, but watch it in the way that makes the most sense for you.
I can't wait for the Encanto resurgence on Disney Plus of this movie. Like
it honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. I do think that the reason that surged as much as it did was the music.
I mean,
so I don't know if this has the same legs, but I do.
Nothing is going to have the legs that Encanto had on Disney Plus. Like that is
no, that was just
it was a moment
bizarre.
in time. But it's still a good jumping off point to talk about everything. So yeah, I do think this is absolutely worth seeing. You should absolutely go see it if you have the ability to do so. Now, we're going to the end of the show, Mitch, which means, of course, we're done. Goodbye.
Yay!
No, I'm kidding. If people want to keep up with us, Mitch, where can people find us?
At D+us, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, TBD. There's an account, but there's nothing on it yet. I got to figure that out. I don't know. Blue Sky is a thing now that I got to learn another new platform. Like, remember when Hive was a thing? That was a thing for a hot minute. I
have my Hive account.
I do too. And I log in there and I see 2 people post.
I really thought Hive was going to be the one, man. I really thought so. And then they had
but then they had that whole security breach and had to shut down for multiple weeks to get things resolved in their database. And it was just like, oh, right. This feels like it was built by Tony Stark in a cave with a box of scraps.
So
yeah, I know.
But yeah, remember, folks, June 30th, 9 a.m. Pacific time is when our big video essay will be.
Griffin's big video.
Yeah, you get some credit. You have been there for me as I have emotionally struggled my way through this.
Yes, but this is your passion project, and I look forward to supporting you as much as I can.
Yeah, I'll send you the link when it's fully uploaded. Yeah, go check that out. It is. I'm proud of this one. It will be a fun one. We're going to talk the hell about this. If you are watching Secret Invasion, go watch our weekly show all about that.
Episode 2 is so soon. I need more. Give me more. Yeah. Gimme. I want
2 days.
Please.
2 days, man.
Yeah.
2 days.
Sorry, I'm impatient.
We've got plenty more stuff coming out. Like we mentioned, so much is coming out. Our next episode is going to be about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. So we will be back for y'all with that. But until then, have a magical day.